Welcome back to Court TV Live. We are watching together Florida versus Herbert Swilley happening in Ocala, Florida, where a man was arrested for the 2023 murder of 59-year-old Timothy Smith. This was Herbert Swilley, the defendant's husband. The couple had been married nearly 8 years, and the victim was found dead in an apartment after failing to show up for work. The defense points to other suspects, but the prosecution says that this husband was strangled and dosed by his husband. Let's get you back into the courtroom now. We're listening to a friend of these two, the victim and the defendant. We've heard several friends who talked about a tumultuous relationship. Let's see what Candace Baker has to say.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
I'm going to ask that you scoot up to that microphone and speak into that, please, so everybody can hear you the best you can. Thank you. Can you please tell the jury your name and spell your name?
Candace Baker, Candacebaker.
Thank you. Are you currently employed, Ms. Baker?
I am.
What do you do for a living?
I'm a sober coach.
What is a sober coach?
I assist people getting sober, finding new things to do, new ways to do them, getting to treatment.
Do you also own a commercial cleaning business?
I do.
How long have you owned that business?
Since approximately 2012.
And did you know Tim Smith?
I did.
Where did you meet Tim?
At an AA meeting.
And when did you meet Tim?
Around 2019.
And did you know Tim's husband, Herbert Swilley?
I did.
Do you see the person you know to be Herbert Swilley in the courtroom?
I do.
Can you point to him and describe something he's wearing?
Blue suit, striped tie.
Your Honor, may the record reflect the witness has identified the defendant?
It will so reflect.
And when did you meet the defendant?
Maybe a few months after Tim.
Was that at AA also?
It was.
So Tim came to AA first and then the defendant?
Correct.
Were you and Tim close?
Very.
How often would you see Tim?
Maybe about 5-6 nights a week.
Did you do things socially with Tim other than AA?
Yes.
What kind of things did you and Tim do together?
We like to eat.
Okay. Did you do other things besides eat?
We did. We shopped. We like shoes. We did some road trips, lots of parties, dinners at his home, holiday events.
Were you also friends with Tim's husband, the defendant?
Sure.
Would you do some of those things with Tim and the defendant?
Absolutely.
And what kind of work did the defendant do?
He was a handyman.
All right. And what kind of work did Tim do?
He was a director in a retirement, I think it's called retirement place.
All right. And did you know Jordan Swilley?
I did.
And how was your relationship with Jordan?
She was like a daughter to me.
Were you aware that Tim and the defendant had an open marriage?
No.
Were you aware that they had sex with other people as a couple?
Yes.
All right. Were you aware that they had sex with other people separately?
No.
Were you aware of the apartment they had in addition to their marital home?
Yes.
Had you ever been there?
No, ma'am.
I want to direct your attention to March 24th of 2023, the day before they found Tim. On that date, did you learn that Tim was missing?
I did.
And how did you learn that?
I don't remember if it was a phone call or a text from Herbie asking if I'd seen or heard from Tim.
Do you remember around what time that was? That
In
Friday?
the afternoon.
All right. And then did you actually speak with the defendant that afternoon, that Friday?
Yes.
Okay. And what did he say to you?
That Tim did not show up for work, which was not like Tim at all. I proceeded to call Tim and text and did not get a response.
All right. Did the defendant tell you anything else besides Tim didn't show up to work? Did he tell you where he thought Tim was?
No.
All right. So you reached out to Tim.
I did.
Did you get any response?
I did not.
Did the defendant say whether or not he and Tim were fighting?
He did not.
Now, did you ever speak to the defendant again that Friday evening after the initial call when you learned Tim was missing?
I don't think so.
Okay. Did you ever talk to the defendant about him finding Tim's Jeep at the apartment that Friday evening?
Oh, yeah, yes. I'm
Tell the
sorry.
jury about that conversation. Did he call you or did you call him?
He called me, and the Jeep was over at the apartment, but nobody was entering the door. And there were no lights on. And I asked him to go in, and he said he didn't know where his key was.
Did he say he just didn't know where it was?
Yeah.
Okay, all right. And then what else did he tell you? Did you and he talk about guns at all?
Oh, that was after he went home.
Okay, so he called you?
We stayed on the phone. This was like a 2-hour phone call.
Okay.
And then in the process of that phone call, he starts saying, oh, well, he doesn't have any guns. And I said, well, why would he have guns? I thought you said he wasn't suicidal. And he said, well, I have the Glock, and I can hear him walking around the house as he's talking to me. So he's collecting guns as he's talking to me. And he says, okay, I have this gun. Okay, the only gun that's missing is the pink Glock, Tim's gun. So he goes into Jordan's room. He gets Jordan. He tells Jordan, you're coming with me.
And this is all Friday evening? You're
Friday
on the phone
night.
with him.
I'm on the phone with him.
Around what time was this?
This was late 9-ish.
Okay, all right.
Him and Jordan drive over to the apartment where the Jeep is.
Are you still on the phone with him?
I'm still on the phone.
All right.
He gets out of the car, of his truck, and goes into the Jeep. I'm still on the phone. I can hear, he gets the gun, he gets back in, he says, it's okay, I have the Glock. Tim doesn't have any guns.
So he was talking about a pink
Glock.
gun that was Tim's. All right. He took the gun from the Jeep.
But this is also after the police did a wellness check, so I'm not understanding, if you're collecting guns, but you told the wellness check people that Tim is not suicidal, why are you now looking for guns?
Okay.
Why did you not say that when they were there?
So what happened after you're on the phone with him and he says, I got the pink Glock from the Jeep?
This witness is bringing back that personal side to this trial. You could hear the emotion in her voice. This was one of her good friends, the victim in this case. Let's bring in to discuss what we've seen so far. Criminal defense attorney Danny Rubin is with us. Danny, thanks so much for joining us. Let's talk about what this witness is able to share, because Candace has been able to not necessarily talk about any problems the way we've heard other witnesses talk about some major problems in this marriage and that it was deteriorating. But she says she wasn't even aware about the openness of their relationship, these other strangers that may have been involved with them. How does that help or hurt the defense case here?
I think when you bring in someone who knows the victim, you always want to try and humanize the person who's no longer with us. It endears that person to the jury. Whatever problems they may have had, whatever marital issues, whatever really humanizes the victim. Because that obviously not only endears the victim to the jury, but it makes the person a human being and not just a statistic.
Yeah, it seems like she, of course, was much closer to Tim than she was to the defendant here. But these people, mostly who are coming in, they knew both of them. Can you talk about the conflict sometimes for these witnesses coming to the stand and having to testify against one friend on behalf of getting justice for another?
Yeah, I mean, it's always, you always want to vet your witnesses beforehand. You always want to know what they're going to say. When you put on a witness that you believe is going to help you want that witness to actually help you in some way. And like I said before, going through the couple's relationship is a harrowing thing. I mean, you're talking about mental health issues, about openness of relationships. It really does provide some context for what was going on between the couple before the death.
Absolutely. It's important for a jury to hear. And we do understand, Danny, that actually the daughter who we've been hearing about, Jordan Swilley, daughter of the defendant, she is going to be taking the stand next. So we're going to squeeze in a break. Stand by, Danny. When we come back, we will get you back into the Swilley trial. Also want to bring your attention to the verdict watch we're on. You see the clock there, 13 hours and 44 minutes so far in the murder of Sonny Bell case. This jury today, they had some questions about whether or not they needed to be unanimous on the charges. There are 5 men being tried together here with first-degree murder. There are some lessers like second-degree that the jury has wanted to know about, but this is all over the death of a 4-year-old little girl where the prosecution says they were hunted down. In terms of this little girl, her mother and her uncle, they survived. This morning, both sides discussed how to bring in principal defendant Zavante Sampson. Remember, he was escorted out of the courtroom Monday after an outburst. The state's closing argument did address it, and the judge decided that Sampson could FaceTime into the courtroom from a phone. When we get a verdict, or if the jury has another question, we'll take you into that courtroom. We'll be right back. Welcome back to Court TV Live. I'm Julia Janae. Thank you for being with us as we go back into an Ocala, Florida courtroom for the dosed and choked murder trial for Herbert Swilley. Prosecutors say that Swilley drugged and then strangled his husband, Tim Smith, all in order to receive a large life insurance payout. He even went on to GoFundMe immediately after the death to raise funds. The defense says, though, that Swilley and Smith had an open marriage and that the investigators overlooked other possible suspects. Let's get you back into a courtroom now. We're watching a friend of both the victim and defendant who is on the stand under direct examination.
What happened after you're on the phone with him and he says, I got the pink Glock from the Jeep? Then what happens after that?
Then they drive home. We continue to talk for a few more minutes, then they go home.
All right. And Jordan, you said Jordan drove or she was with him?
They were together.
All right. All right. Did you speak to him again after that Friday night, the gun conversation?
I don't think so.
So I want to move on now to Saturday, the next day, March 25th of 2023. Did you contact the defendant that morning?
I tried to call him to see if he'd heard, did anybody find Tim? Where's Tim? He did not answer. I called Jordan. Did Tim come home? She said no.
Were you concerned at this point?
Yes.
Had you continued to try to reach Tim yourself?
I,
And then what did you do after Jordan told you they hadn't heard from Tim?
I tried to call Tim.
Did you try to call the defendant again?
No, because I called him first.
Okay. Did you ever reach the defendant that morning and find out what happened to Tim?
He reached me.
Okay. So you would call to him, the defendant, he didn't answer, but then he reached out to you.
Mm-hmm.
Do you remember when that was?
I don't remember what time it was.
Okay. Do you remember the morning or the afternoon?
Morning.
And when the defendant reached out to you, what did he say?
He's gone.
He's gone? Okay. Did he say anything else about how Tim had died?
He alluded suicide
That's what you thought after your conversation?
and said he couldn't talk. Because I called him right away. When he texted me, he's gone. Of course, I have questions. What do you mean?
Did you
Did he leave? Where'd he go? That's what I'm thinking. He left. I'm not thinking he's deceased. And he said I couldn't believe he would do this. That was the alluding to suicide. And he said he couldn't talk.
And then that was the end of the
That
conversation?
was the end of the conversation.
So you were left...
Thinking that he killed himself for hours that day.
Now, did you see the defendant at all that Saturday, the rest of that day?
No.
Okay. Did you learn at any time that day on Saturday that Tim hadn't died by suicide?
I think later I talked to him later on to see if him and Jordan ate. Did they need anything?
This is Saturday.
Saturday, and I think somebody else was bringing food to them, so they didn't need food. And then it wasn't suicide.
Did he say it was something else?
Said that he was murdered.
Were you surprised by that?
I was very surprised and had a lot of questions, but it was not to be talked about.
And did you ask questions and they weren't answered?
And it was not to be talked about.
Did he say that? What do you mean was not to be talked about? Explain that.
Yes. He's dead, he's gone. That's it.
All right. So you didn't learn anything else?
I did not.
All right. I want to move on now to the next day. We're at Sunday, the day after Tim's body was found, March 26th of 2023. Did you see the defendant that day?
I did.
All right. Where did you see him?
At their home.
Why did you go to the house?
To make sure they were all right.
Now,
See if they needed food. Called in the morning. See if they slept. What I could do.
now, when you arrived there, how was the defendant's demeanor?
Like it was a regular day.
And right when you walked in, did you notice anything unusual when you walked in the front door?
As soon as he opened the door, I noticed the huge area rug was missing, and I said, "Where's the rug?" And he didn't answer me. And then we walked a few more steps into the kitchen area, and I noticed the area rug and the huge wooden coffee table was missing from the family room. And I said, where's the rug? Where's the coffee table? And then he said that the dog peed on it.
So two rugs were missing and a coffee table. And his explanation was the dog peed on it.
Yes, ma'am.
Your Honor, may I approach the witness?
Yes, ma'am.
I'm going to show you what's been marked for identification of States Exhibit EEE. I want you to look at that. And do you recognize that photograph?
Yes.
Does that photograph show one of the living room rugs that was missing when you came into the home?
Yes.
Okay. And where is that rug that was missing?
In the front living room when you walk in the home.
When you walk in the front door?
Correct.
All right. And is that a fair and accurate depiction of the way that rug looked at their home?
Yes.
Your Honor, at this time we will move States Exhibit EEE into evidence.
No objection.
Objection EEE would be in evidence as number 56.
And who are the people in that picture? We were concentrating on the rug, but who are the people in the picture?
Tim and I.
All right. And that's one of the rugs that was missing on Sunday in that photograph.
That's correct.
Your Honor, may I publish?
Sure.
All right. And is this right here the rug that we're talking about that was missing?
Yes.
Okay, what's on that rug? What is that?
It's a lobster. It's like the house is beach themed, so it had like different sea animals, and it was like a woven rug. So they would have been like kind of dug out white areas of different creatures, sea creatures.
And that's you and Tim?
Yes.
All right. Now I'm going to show you what's been entered in States 31, photograph number 3. Where would that rug have been in this picture?
Underneath that round wooden and glass coffee table, all the way out probably to that bench, the left side,
Left,
the
right.
window, and out to that chair, and all the way to the left window.
And is this right here the front door where you walk in? Mm-hmm. Okay, so you
Yes,
walked
ma'am.
in, and this is what you saw, this empty, that rug missing.
Correct.
All right.
His friend's spidey senses are going off. She thinks it's strange that this huge rug is missing. Also that this defendant simply said he's gone and suggested this was a suicide rather than a murder. Let's get to a break. When we come back, more of this friend on the stand who is detailing it all for this jury.
Saturday nights on ION
is our night.
Let's go! Double headers every Saturday at 7 and 10 p.m. Eastern. The new Saturday Night Out is on ION all season long.
Tonight on Closing Arguments, another dramatic day of testimony in the pregnant mistress murder trial. We'll break down the biggest moments in this death penalty case.
Closing Arguments with Vinny Politan tonight at 8/7 Central, only on Court TV.
Did the defendant in this case lie about his husband dying of suicide, or was he just a deeply distraught spouse? Herbert Swilley is accused of murdering his husband of nearly 10 years, Tim Smith. Prosecutors say the marriage was on the rocks, and Smith was planning to leave Swilley. They say Swilley couldn't afford to keep up his lifestyle without his husband's income, and he wanted to cash in on a $300,000 plus life insurance after his death. We are hearing the play-by-play of what happened following the discovery of Tim Smith's body through the eyes of a friend, Candace Baker. She said that she noticed that Swilley was quickly trying to throw out all of his husband's belongings.
Now, after you noticed that that was missing, and then as well as another rug and table, who else was there?
It was just Jordan and Herb.
Okay. And what else was happening?
And I sat down and I noticed what they were doing. They had the garbage cans from outside, inside the house, two garbage cans. Jordan had one in the kitchen, Herb had one in the pantry, and they were knocking off things off the counter into the garbage cans and off the shelves in the pantry. And
What sort of things?
Tim's vitamins, and he drank protein drinks and gummies and different vitamins. He did this regiment. So he had like 20, 15, just tons of different drinks and snacks and rice cakes, and they were just throwing away anything that was on the counter, the mixing cups. And I started looking around, and the portraits, family portraits, were off the wall. And I looked around, and all the candles and the seashells and the mermaids and all the knickknacks were gone, and they were in the dumpsters, and they were stacked up. The pictures were stacked up, and Jordan looked over at me, and she said,
Object to hearsay. Sustained.
You can't tell us what anybody
Okay.
said. Now, when you're saying all these knickknacks and everything, whose knickknacks were these?
they were Tim's.
So everything was getting thrown away.
Everything of Tim's
Okay.
was all going in the dumpster.
And the pictures that you're talking about, they were framed pictures that used to hang on the wall?
Yes.
Were they professional?
Professional family photos, photos of Jordan growing up from the time they, had been together.
And Tim was in these photographs?
And Tim was in the photographs. They were professional photos of the two of them, marital photos.
And did the defendant indicate that he was going to throw those away?
Yes.
All right. Did he
Photo
say
albums, everything.
all of Tim's?
Yes.
Did the defendant say why he was doing that?
It's his house now, and he's finally going to get the house that he always wanted.
Now, when is the last time you had been at their house and seen that rug and those coffee tables there?
I want to say 2 weeks, 2 to 3 weeks prior. Tim and I went somewhere together.
All right. Did you ever go to their house around that time to get some blow-up mattresses?
I went to pick up an air mattress for my grandkids. I have too many grandkids, and I needed to borrow another air mattress.
Were they coming to visit you?
They were.
For what?
For spring break.
Spring break, okay. So it had been 2 to 3 weeks you had been there and seen
Yes.
that rug there.
Correct.
Now, while you were there that Sunday after they found Tim, did the defendant say anything about insurance money?
That's what they were going to do next.
What does that mean? What did he say?
When he said that he was getting the house that he always wanted by getting rid of all of that stuff. the next thing he was going to do was get in that office and get those papers to get to his money.
To get to those papers, did he say insurance papers?
My money, to get my money. He needed to find the insurance papers.
So did he specifically say, I need to find insurance papers?
Yes.
Okay, to get my money.
My money, yes.
About how long were you at the house that Sunday?
I would say about 30 minutes. I was screaming inside to stop touching Tim's things. I really couldn't understand what was going on.
So you left?
I left.
Now, did you talk to the defendant the next evening, which would have been Monday, March 27th of 2023, 2 days after Tim had been found? All right.
Yes.
Did you talk to him on the phone or did you see him in person?
On the phone.
All right. Around what time was that?
We talked several times a day.
All right.
So.
Did you talk to him at some point during that Monday where he was at an AutoZone?
Yes.
Okay.
So that would have been 8:30ish at night.
All right.
He was blowing my phone up while I was in a meeting, and when I came out, I'd missed a lot of calls from him.
How did you know he was at AutoZone?
I asked him where he was because it didn't, you can tell I'm like, where are you? And he said, I'm at AutoZone. And
Was he by himself?
he was with Jordan.
And did he tell you what they were doing at AutoZone?
Yes, he did.
What did he say they were doing?
He said that he was getting cleaners to clean the Jeep because the police wanted the Jeep back.
He was getting cleaners to clean the Jeep because the police wanted it. All right. Did he say anything about fingerprints being in the Jeep? People's
Yes.
fingerprints? What did he say?
He said that, Candy, I have to clean the Jeep. You've been in the Jeep. I have to get your fingerprints out. And I said, I wouldn't hurt anyone. I don't care if my fingerprints are in the Jeep. And he said that a lot of our friends have been in that Jeep, and I have to get that Jeep clean before the police get it.
Now, on March 29th of 2023, which would be about 3 days after you were at the defendant's house, did you call the Marion County Sheriff's Office and speak with the detective?
I did.
All right. Did you tell him everything you knew that you told us?
I did.
Thank you. I don't have any other questions, Judge.
Cross-examination, please.
Yes, Your Honor. Thank you. Good afternoon, Ms. Baker.
Good afternoon.
After March 29th of 2023, did you cut off ties with Herbert, or did you continue to speak with him?
I don't know what date March 29th is.
Sure, that was the date that you contacted the Marion County
I did
Sheriff's
cut
Office.
off ties.
Okay.
All right, we're hitting the pause button on this testimony. We're getting close to the top of the hour, and I've got to get reaction from criminal defense attorney Danny Rubin. Danny, she is saying that this defendant said, I get the house I always wanted, that he was throwing away wedding photos not too long after this murder and cleaning fingerprints off of the car. I mean, what's standing out to you is the words that she's a gift to the prosecution in terms of what she says she heard.
Again, this is the prosecution's direct. So I'm sure her testimony has been, first of all, solicited, and second of all, she's probably, had some sort of dealings with the prosecutor to make sure that she's giving the kind of testimony that's benefiting the prosecution. All these things obviously are problematic. Not seeing the rug is an issue. The fingerprints, or dusting off fingerprints of the cars, is potentially problematic. But we should wait to see what happens on cross-examination. Right now, there's nothing that is going to be adverse to what she's saying, but it's the defense's turn next to pick apart all these details.
This is true. We don't want to discount the defensive side of this, Danny. I also want to ask you if you can help our viewers understand, because often we don't get these kind of revelations from after something happens. Most people just go radio silent and don't talk about a lot of things. But why is it that she's able to say what he said? A lot of people know hearsay is when these witnesses get on the stand and they get stopped from saying what someone else said. But this is different.
There are certain exceptions to the hearsay rule. I know it's the hard and fast rule is any out-of-court statement made for the truth of the matter asserted is not allowed to come in. But here, we're talking about excited utterances, things that happened at the scene, some declarations against interest. Whenever someone says something that's against their own personal interest, those things can come in as exceptions to hearsay. So some of the things that she was talking about would fit some of those hearsay exceptions.
Absolutely, and he is on trial, so all of this is at issue, what he would say. Danny Rubin, thank you so much for joining us and lending us your expertise. We're going to get everyone back inside of the courtroom on the other side of this break. We'll not only hear the rest of that cross-examination, one Danny wants to make sure you pay attention to see what's adverse to this witness, but also the defendant's daughter. You've been hearing about her, Jordan Swilley. She was there living in the home with her father and his husband. She is going to be taking the stand. You don't want to miss it. Stay with us. You're watching Court TV, your front row seat to justice.
Welcome back to Court TV Live. I'm Judge Ashley Wilcott, of course, honored to be with you today. Let's turn now back to Florida, where the defendant, Herbert Swilley, is accused of murdering his own husband, Timothy Smith. Prosecutors say the marriage was on the rocks and Smith was planning to leave Swilley. They say Swilley could not afford to keep up his lifestyle without his husband's income, and he wanted to cash in on Smith's life insurance after his death. Let's go back into the courtroom together. On the stand is a friend of the couple, Candace Baker. She's on direct examination by the state.
And at one point in time, prior to Tim Smith's death, you were cleaning their marital home, were you not?
For a short time.
Okay. And that ended in the latter part of 2022, correct?
I'm not sure. It was just maybe 3 months I did that. I'm not sure of the dates.
Okay. But not at all in the year that Tim Smith died?
No, sir.
Okay. And you mentioned having come to the marital home 2 to 3 weeks prior to Tim Smith being discovered dead and picking up air mattresses?
An air mattress.
Okay. Did you stay there for any length of time when you were doing that, or was it kind of a quick in and out?
No, sat at the counter, maybe 20 minutes or so, chit-chatted.
The counter in the kitchen?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And you mentioned that the rug that you identified from the pictures was still there.
Both rugs and the coffee table.
Okay. And the coffee table that you claim was not there when you went on March 26th, the year that Tim died. What was that coffee table?
A wooden coffee table, very heavy wood coffee table.
Okay. And you mentioned that you were very close to Tim Smith, correct?
Yes.
But you did not know that Tim Smith was in an open relationship, right?
No.
Okay. And in addition to raising your suspicions about Herbert's conduct after Tim's death, did you also tell the sheriff's office to look into other persons who may have been involved in Tim Smith's murder?
No.
You didn't mention to them looking into a terminated employee from Brookdale?
No.
Okay. You mentioned knowing about the apartment that Tim Smith leased, right?
Correct.
Oh. And how long before Tim Smith's death did you learn of the use of that apartment by Tim Smith?
I don't understand the question.
How long had you known Tim Smith to have the apartment before his death? Weeks,
When
months?
When they got it and were working on it.
Okay, that was when you learned of the existence of the apartment. Mm-hmm. So yes?
Yes.
Okay. Did you know anything about Tim Smith looking for other work?
No. No.
Okay. Your Honor, may I have a moment with my colleague?
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Your Honor, I have no further questions.
Thank you. Excuse.
We ask that she be excused, Your Honor.
Have a nice day, ma'am. Thank you very much.
Thank you.